Hormone replacement therapy is a life-saving medicine, and it plays an important role in many people's medical transitions and is often the biggest part in becoming more confident and more comfortable in our own bodies. HRT for sure played a role in saving my life, and I am so happy and glad that I am able to access it and take it. However, it doesn't mean that there aren't some things I wish I knew beforehand to kind of stop me from being a bit disappointed. Hello darlings, and welcome to my corner of the internet where I share what I've learnt and discovered about myself as a trans woman. Now today is something that I learnt a bit of the hard way, so I think I'm going to talk about it from the sofa. Before we really get into things, I think I'll say that I am under no impression that HRT is a long process. The changes take a long time to be seen and happen. If we take the comparison that HRT is like a second puberty, well, puberty takes around 2 to 5 years in general to occur, so we can expect kind of the same thing for HRT. Now, I have been on estrogen and anti-androgens for just under 2 years now, so it's for sure that my changes haven't yet finished, but I don't think it makes my disappointment any less valid. Now, I am talking about my experiences, so we'll be talking about feminizing HRT, and whenever I talk about it in this video, you can assume that I'm talking about feminizing HRT, so I'm sorry about that, trans masks. If we go back in time a bit, I remember watching all of these videos about people and their experiences after starting HRT and how they were suddenly able to see the world in colour and experience a broader range of emotions, or even being able to cry a lot more easily. These things seemed wonderful to me, and I imagine to many of my trans feminine sisters as well. To think that all of my emotional difficulties just stemmed from the presence of testosterone and a lack of estrogen was like a light at the end of the tunnel. I have been diagnosed with depression and anxiety many times over my life. I've been seeing therapists and other mental health professionals for a very long time, and the idea of being able to experience the world in that positive light just seemed like a dream come true. All I'd need was HRT, get rid of the testosterone in my body, replace it with estrogen, and I'd be able to feel a whole new joy that I wasn't even able to express. It just felt like I could grasp that light at the end of the tunnel. It may seem obvious to you, and it for sure does in hindsight for me, but that didn't happen. Now, I don't think that all of these people were lying in their videos and their stories. I genuinely think that that was the experience that they had, and from what I've read, I am for sure in the minority. But that doesn't mean that my experience is any less valid, or it's something that shouldn't be talked about. At the beginning of HRT, depressive symptoms can increase. You do experience mood swings, and you can feel emotions more intensely, which can make them more difficult to manage. However, I do believe I'm past that state. My levels are fine and have been for many, many months, a year plus. I've changed from taking estrogen orally to sublingually, and also even now I'm taking them by injection. It hasn't changed anything. It just comes down to HRT doesn't cure mental illness. Now, I don't want this to seem like a hopeless topic or make it out that HRT doesn't help with mental health at all, because that's not true. For problems that stem from gender dysphoria, not being perceived as your gender, or not feeling comfortable in your body, not seeing yourself in the mirror, all of these things can and probably will be helped with HRT. It really does lift the burden off our shoulders, and even for me, I can recognize that mental stress and strain has been lifted. I mean, just last video I talked about gender envy and how I barely experience it anymore, and that is for sure thanks to HRT. It's been a huge weight off my shoulders, feeling way more confident and comfortable in my body, and you can really tell I do just by the number of selfies I've taken recently. Believe me, I used to never take any before. It also gives you a feeling of taking control and making progress in your transition. I really don't want to underestimate how important HRT can be and how much it can help us. I would never want to stop HRT, and I'd for sure fight anyone who tried to take it away from me. It's just that my mental health was far from cured because my issues stem from other reasons. If you have trauma or any other difficulties that arise from different things, you're going to need to deal with it like any cisgender person would. You're going to need to seek out therapy, antidepressants, or other medication. Please seek out the help that you need. HRT works wonders, and I really hope that it'll give you confidence and reasons to seek out that help and a reason to keep on going. But it's not a fix-all drug in itself. I know I've already said it, but HRT is slow, and it means you probably will still have to deal with gender dysphoria for a while. I know that one thing that I wasn't prepared for was getting gender dysphoria from my developing chest. And even to this day, I can still sometimes look in the mirror and kind of see these strange sort of pecs that make me look more masculine than I did before HRT. And that was kind of a weird thing to deal with, because obviously breast development is meant to alleviate that, but instead it brought me a new aspect I wasn't expecting. My skin was also soft before starting HRT, and as that's one of the first changes that is meant to appear, that the skin becomes softer, I didn't get that because I couldn't tell the difference, and that kind of made me convince myself that it wasn't working, no changes were happening. I did also take pictures of myself daily at the beginning of my transition to try and see those changes, but I eventually stopped because it started being painful not being able to see any difference. And I really wish I continued, honestly, even if part of that is for the content creator brain of sharing a video in the future of X number of years on HRT, but there's also a part that I wish I had that for myself too. Try not to fall down this hole, it doesn't help you. Changes are slow and they aren't apparent to you or anyone who sees you every day, but they are happening. Trust the process, trust your levels, trust HRT. What actually helped me get myself out of that hole was noticing in photos my arms weren't veiny anymore. It's a dysphoria I didn't know I had, but yeah, after taking some photos and seeing I didn't have veins where my arms were down anymore, and just noticing that small change made me kind of force myself to see that things were happening. And I told myself that no matter how small the changes were, it's better than whatever changes would happen if I wasn't taking estrogen. Guess who forgot how to hold a microphone, so is back at a later date? It's me, with slightly less makeup. Now to get back into it, I think to do with expectations, there is a bias on social media that we need to be aware of when kind of setting our own expectations for HRT. And that is that on social media platforms there is a bias in who succeeds. Generally, those who are conventionally attractive have an easier time taking off. And as trans people, I think we do, especially early and before our transition, tend to search out trans people who are conventionally attractive and do pass. These individuals may have been on HRT for many years or may have even had some gender confirmation surgeries, and that's perfectly valid, but it's really easy to start comparing and feeling like we should reach certain milestones in our transition and our HRT journey before it's actually possible, and it becomes an extra measure that we kind of rate our success on how well we do compared to other people. This kind of comparison for sure caused me to develop some insecurities, as well as feeling like my HRT journey wasn't going the way it should have done. I kind of needed to recenter myself and just focusing on my own journey and my own way towards happiness with myself and my body. Our goal really isn't to look like someone else, our goal is to be comfortable with ourselves, even if that means learning to love the changes that maybe aren't quite what we wanted, or the things that we don't like so much about ourselves. Insecurities are part of everyone's life, and part of the process of living is learning to accept them, or even learning to love your imperfections. In the end, for me, feminizing HRT didn't quite live up to what I expected to be, or what I was told it was going to be, and I doubt I'm the only one who's been left kind of disappointed by this. I really want to stress how much better off I am for it. Even if there are disappointments, I'm still way more confident and comfortable within my body. It aligns way more with my gender. However, it didn't really bring that happiness or joy that some people seemingly promised that it was going to bring. In retrospect, I was probably projecting a lot of my hopes and dreams onto these kind of people and hoping that my journey would be exactly like theirs and I'd get all of the happiness that it brought them. But everyone's journey with HRT is unique, and it's not gonna be a straight line, and it's not gonna fix everything. The thing you'll hear everywhere in discussions about HRT is your mileage may vary, often shortened to YMMV. And this really is true. Everyone has a different biology, different genetics, and their body will react in different ways. And it's very unpredictable. Unfortunately, with your mileage varying, it may mean that it doesn't quite go as far as you expected it to go or wanted it to go. There may also just be other issues that HRT doesn't help that you may need to work through in therapy or through other means. And that's okay. HRT is still a step towards happiness, a step towards being you, and it can really help those other pieces fall into place as well. I think my disappointment ultimately stems from me realizing that I have more work to do on myself than I thought. And it's going to be a lot of effort, but ultimately it's not going to stop me reaching that happiness, and HRT has provided me a step, even if it wasn't as big of a step as I thought it would be. I'm not going to give up on happiness, and if you ever find yourself in a similar situation, I hope you don't give up either. Well, there we are, an outfit change, a different day, microphone problems, but we're at the end of the video. And I'd like to thank you for sticking to the end. If you did enjoy this video, feel free to give it a like and maybe subscribe if you want to see more content like this. If you have any questions or any advice, feel free to leave it in the comments below. And I really look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye!